Okay, so technical SEO best practices. Let's talk about this for a little bit. There are more areas around technical SEO than just what you see in this list. But I think for the purposes of this conversation, I just want to keep it simple, keep it light, and these are the things that you should definitely consider. The first thing that impacts technical SEO is what we call page speed. And there are a number of different tools that are out there that can show you exactly how fast your page speed is, both for your desktop as well as for mobile. We typically use, page speed insights from Google. It's very straightforward, very simple. It's also what we include in a lot of our audits that we do for clients. You want a page speed that's good, though, ultimately, because if your site does not load up relatively quickly, then that can have a negative impact on the technical side of things from an SEO perspective. Duplicate content is something we talked about in the on-page optimization section. I kind of include it in both sections because duplicate content is also a technical SEO problem in the sense that if Google has to decide on one page versus the other, they're going to decide on whichever one, and then you're dealing with cannibalization, meaning you have one page that's impacting another page when you only need one page to address that particular keyword that you're targeting on your website. 301 redirects and 302 to redirects. This happens a lot when someone has a new website that they've built or they've rebranded or they have a new page that they've created and it's relevant to another one, but they want to send traffic from the old page to the new page. That's something that's very important from a technical SEO standpoint. 301 is what we call a temporary redirect, and a 302 is what we call a permanent redirect. 302s are really not good. You typically with 301s are better, even if they are just temporary. 404 errors, we want to keep that reduced as much as possible. Google doesn't necessarily ding us per se, but there's so many opportunities with 404 errors. Number one, say for example, if you have a lot of 404 errors, a lot of pages that are indexed by Google, but they're taking someone to a page that doesn't really exist, that is a problem. But make it even worse than that. One of the tools, we have a number of tools that we use, but there have been cases where we've been able to find both broken links and 404 errors on pages that had links pointing to them. And people have changed the URL or changed the content of that page and change the URL. You never want to change the URL unless you absolutely have to. And if you do, you want to perform a 301 redirect from the old page to the new page so that you can take advantage of that link equity and reduce the 404 errors on your website. Your robots.txt file, which is a file in WordPress, or it's your file in general, that tells bots out there what's accessible and what's not. So you can actually say certain bots you don't want to access your site, and certain bots you can. I usually just kind of leave that thing blank, or I'll just say, I don't want my WP admin to be indexed at all because it's more of the admin backend of the site, which is important. So that's what robots.txt file is, still something very paramount to technical SEO. Your URL architecture, meaning how you break down the URLs of your website, is also technically driven. So we don't need to get into all that detail, but it's something that's worth considering. Schema markup is a markup language that's been around for some time. Essentially, it provides more rich snippets and rich information when someone does a search on Google for something that's specific to like that rich snippet conversation. So I'll give you an example. There are a number of event websites that are out there. And if you were looking for an event in Atlanta, Georgia, let's say you're looking for concert tickets or something along those lines, there's a lot of websites that now have that schema markup on their events page. And so it shows up differently and with a lot more rich information around the actual event. So it might show the event name, it might show the price, it might show the location. It shows more than what someone would have shown if they didn't have schema markup around those individual, events, if you will. So there's a lot of different things you can do with schema markup. You can do it with your name, address, and phone number for local search purposes, which I highly recommend. You can do it for a lot of different things, recipes, a lot of different really cool things you can do with schema markup. But something that's worth considering, there's plenty of resources out there. We don't have to go into all the details on schema markup here. If you just do a search for schema markup in YouTube or something along those lines, I promise you'll find it. And it's not easy, but you can get your web developer to help you with that. And then finally, this isn't technical, but it's still something I would consider it to be important, which is site performance, bounce rate, click-through rate, pages per session, all those things. Again, it's not technical, but I like to look at those things because it is important. So you don't want high bounce rates. You don't want low click-through rates. You want an abundance of people that are going to multiple pages on your website, because that showcases engagement and it shows that you have a good site, something that's very engaging with people. And these are the main areas. There's also this conversation around rel canonicalization. There's other areas that I could discuss, but I think this is more than enough for you guys to tackle. And so in the next section, I'm going to talk to you a little bit and give you a quick walkthrough on Google Webmaster Tools and why it's important, and how, not so much how, but why it's important to tie your Google Webmaster Tools to your website so that you can then see how your site is speaking to Google and the feedback that Google is giving you back. So we'll talk about that in a little bit.